because, you know, you have that amazing opportunity to leverage, right? If you go back and look at what happened in 2009, when gold kind of took its last run, you know, you look at for every, you know, 1 point that gold went up, you know, the stock, junior stock exploration companies like ours went up 10, right? So, I mean, the incremental effect is incredible, and there's no reason to believe that it won't be any different now.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And ahead of another Federal Reserve meeting this week, which, I mean, it's hard to want to do anything besides buy gold, silver, and mining stocks when you hear Jerome Powell and his buddies talk. So I'm excited to be joined by Rana Vig of Blue Lagoon Resources, who has some gold and silver projects that are nearing production, and certainly for folks that are looking to get leverage on the gold and silver rally that I still think is quite early. Again, Powell tomorrow will give you a new reason to know that it can't end. And with that said, Rana, great to have you here. And how's everything going with you today?
Everything's great. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, I appreciate you making some time. And again, a lot of the folks watching the show, they already get the silliness of the Fed, why gold and silver is going up, and are looking for good investments that can offer leverage on that move. So perhaps you could give an overview of what you guys have been doing at Blue Lagoon.
Sure. You know, Blue Lagoon is a relatively new company. I put this together about a year ago, just a little over a year ago, and we acquired our main project just about 5 months ago, called Dome Mountain. It's up in northern British Columbia, so a very safe jurisdiction. And you know, what we're excited about on this project is twofold. Number one, you know, it's a permitted mine, right? So about $68 million have been spent on this property, about 28 million of that in the last about a dozen years, all on sort of mine infrastructure and development and permitting. So all we got to do is do three key amendments, which are not onerous. It's about a 4 to 6 month timeline, about $1.5 million, and we can. All indications are that we can get the permission to get back into production again. So that's kind of exciting. And then on the other side, you know, how do you build the company? How do you increase the market cap? Well, you got to show there's more product there, more gold, more silver, you know, whatever you have. So 90% of this property has never been explored because this project was owned by some private individuals, a private company, and their focus was to get mining, right, and pay dividends, which is typical of a private company. So you know they never did any exploration. So that leaves us with 90% of the property that has never been explored. We know there's at least 15 high-grade veins from past companies like Noranda who've been on the property, and very high grade. I mean, the numbers are just spectacular. So you know, we got, I think, the best of both worlds. We're a true near-term cash flow producing opportunity. Plus, we got this massive upside, you know, that we're super excited about to show, you know, our shareholders that there's a tremendous upside potential here.
Yeah, and that's a good starting point to have. I know one of the questions that often pops into people's minds is that it sounds good. Why was the project sitting there? Although I know there's actually an interesting story behind why it got left off. You touched on it a little bit, but perhaps you could share some more about that.
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting, you know, that what you asked that, because a lot of you know, you look at a business, in any business right now, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I've been in different verticals over my 35 years of business. And, you know, you look at businesses and you go, well, that business is so great. Why, you know, did not somebody not take it forward? Well, there's many different reasons, right? And in this particular case, gold was sat around for around 1,200, you know, for years, right? So there was just not enough motivation. And I was talking to you earlier before we got on the interview here, I was telling you a little bit about my background. You know, I come from mostly private enterprise, right? And about 10 years ago, I decided to make a change. And the last time, the financial crisis happened, right? 2008, 2009, when the whole quantitative easing started, right? And I was looking for a change, and I jumped into the capital markets. And my mentor, very, very significant player, made like $300 million plus. Majority of it, he started in mining. He got me involved in mining. So I got started there, and honestly got my rear end kicked pretty good, because I put over $1 million into the mining industry. And the whole industry collapsed. 6 months later, that $1 million was worth about $10,000. I'm like, holy smokes, what did I get myself into here, right? So, I mean, getting back to your question, why do, so all those years, these many projects that I saw just sat there. They did nothing because mining sector collapsed. No one was interested. The capital wasn't there. Only up to recently, right, where everything is starting. So even with this Dome Mountain project, we started the discussion about last October when gold was sitting around 1,400, right? And they just weren't able to, there's two reasons. Number one, they were not able to attract the capital because the market wasn't hot. And number two, they just age caught up to them, right? These guys are now a wonderful family. They're like 83 years old, not in the best of health. And they just got it. They got it to the 1 yard line, but they just couldn't get it over. So, come enter a guy like me and you take over. And so, and the rest, as they say, is history, right? So there's a number of reasons why these things sit around for a while until the timing becomes right.
Yeah, and I like that you say that, especially given your background. I started my career as a corporate drone, and then later in life, seeing what a different skill set being an entrepreneur is, and it forces you to look at things differently. Yet, I think one of the things that's nice is that the more that you do it, the more you see where those opportunities are that someone maybe they couldn't execute, or maybe there was a factor that you can address and does lead to an opportunity like that.
Well, that's key, what you said there. Often every industry I've been in, people always say, well, this industry is different. What do you know about this industry? Look, I'm not a miner. I'm not a geologist. I'm not any kind of a technical, person or an engineer. But you know what, as you said, that I think is my strength, right? I'm an entrepreneur, and when I get into an industry, my first goal is to be always the dumbest guy in the room. Okay, I want to surround myself with the brightest people in that industry, and that's what I did. In 2018. Cannabis was super hot, and I laser beam focused on that industry, and I was very, very fortunate. I was able to take two of the biggest cannabis company to market. I took a company called Curaleaf public, which was the largest Canadian IPO in history, Canadian cannabis IPO in history. $520 million raise, $6 billion market cap. The stock went to like $15. Fortunate enough to come back a couple of months later and took another company in that space public called Harvest Health and Rec out of Arizona. That was a $2 billion RTO, $300 million raise. It was the third largest in 2018. And, stock went to like $14.50. What did I know about cannabis? I'm not a user, I didn't know anything about it. But what I got though is I got the smartest people in the industry around me to help me get to where I needed to get to. And the same thing is happening here, with the Blue Lagoon Resources, right? I've got the best technical people surrounding me, the geologists, the mining engineers, et cetera, and to help me understand exactly what we have. My job is to make the business decisions, and no disrespect to them. Often these very, very highly educated people, and I mean this with total respect, right? They're not the best business people. They're great. They're exceptional at what they do, but not necessarily the best decision making in terms of business. And that's where I come in.
And I appreciate that because, yeah, you don't need 9 shortstops on the team. You need different people who are happy in their role, and certainly someone who knows how to bring them together and lead things. And we've been talking about it on the show. I've been thinking about how, especially, I look a lot at management. I talk to a newsletter writer one after another. The first thing they look at management is management. Because then, you go in some jurisdiction, problem comes up, you need someone, that's a negotiation with a foreign government where maybe you have to be able to handle something where you're not going to get that fair outcome. And it's nice that you have that experience in a bunch of different industries and situations, knowing how to handle.
And you can't be afraid to ask. You touched on a very important point about negotiation. Negotiation is not everyone's cup of tea. It's not easy. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I'd go with my dad, we'd go shopping, and we'd be at Sears, and he'd ask the clerk, the salesperson, for a discount. And I'd be like, 13, 14 years old. I'm kicking him under the thing. Dad, you don't go to Sears, ask for, you're buying a pants, whatever the price is, what it is. But you know what? He always got the discount. And as a kid, I was embarrassed then, but that never left me, right? Those are skills that you learn over time, right? That don't be afraid to ask. And in fact, this deal that we did with Dome Mountain was exceptional. It was an all stock deal. We paid zero cash, for it, and honestly, we did amazing for our shareholders. So yeah, you have to be able to negotiate, whether you're dealing with the regulators or whether you're making a deal, on the behalf of your shareholders.
Yes, that certainly is true. And in terms of what you guys are looking at, you have gold, and something that I know will make people watching this show happy. I have a lot of silver in there too, and hopefully you could just break that down, let us know what you found. Again, you said there's a large portion unexplored, so if you could put some parameters on that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the silver. Traditionally, in our industry, when you're looking for the gold, you're often just kind of discount the silver. Yeah, it's kind of there, and because the silver prices were not that attractive. But now at these levels, and some of the levels that I'm reading and hearing about, like Eric Sprott's been talking about $50 plus silver, right? So that certainly becomes very interesting even at this level. So all our math, right, is done based on the gold price, our cost of the gold, right? I mean, when we ship off the material off to a mill, they don't say, well, hey, we're going to charge you this much for gold and this much for silver, right? So our costs are our costs, right, based on our gold price. So the silver essentially is free, which is very exciting to us. It'll pay for all of our overhead and plus more. So right now we have, for every gram of gold, we have 4 grams, a little more than 4 grams of silver. So it's about a little over 4-to-1 ratio. So we're very excited about that opportunity and expanding, what we can with that there on the property.
Yeah, that is certainly good to hear. I'm of the school of thought, if there's a way silver is going to be under $50 going forward for the long term, I'm not intelligent enough to figure it out. So I think that's certainly an exciting environment. And another thing that I know our investors are always excited to hear about, can you talk about the debt situation and the share structure so people can know how that lines up?
Yeah, another great question. You know what? Again, being an entrepreneur, that's another one of my I'm very, very strongly focused on that, right? So I believe managing the company is managing the company well is extremely important. It's my highest priority. So we have no debt. We have $7.5 million that we just raised. We just closed that about 3 weeks ago. So our treasury is full. We have what we need to execute on our plan. Any long-term debt, we have a little bit of long-term debt, but that is all tied into production. So when we acquired this project, there was a little bit of debt that came with it, but again, in my negotiation, they said, you know what, we're paying zero now, and we're not going to pay anything until there is that the mine is actually in production. So that's tied into production, and it'll be paid out over 3 years, and it's not that onerous. It's like less than $1 million. But we have no other short-term debt, and we're fully cashed up.
That's always good to hear. And the share structure?
Currently, we're at about 69 million shares with the financing that we just did. And we have very, very friendly shareholders. In fact, if you look at how the stock trades, you'll see there's very little pressure day to day, and it's been performing very well.
Well, that certainly sounds good to hear. And Rana, anything else that folks might not be able to pick up on the website or know elsewhere, but that they should be aware of, and how they can find you for more information?
Yeah, look, the best way to do is do your due diligence. There's our website, of course, has lots of information. www.bluelagoonresources.com. We trade in Canada under the symbol BLLG, and in the US under BLAGF. I'm a very engaged CEO. I believe that's a very sacred responsibility that I have. So if they go on our website and click on the email there, it'll eventually make its way to me. I'm happy to speak with people, answer their questions, via email or by call. I'm happy to do that anytime. And look, the bottom line is, if anyone has wanted to get involved in the venture market, right, in this space, I've been waiting for 10 years for mining to turn, and finally here we are. I think this is the time, whether it's our company or similar companies like ours. I think that this is the time, if anyone's ever wanted to jump in, because you have that amazing opportunity to leverage, right? If you go back and look at what happened in 2009, when gold kind of took its last run, you know, you look at for every, 1 point that gold went up, the stock junior stock exploration companies like ours went up 10, right? So I mean, the incremental effect is incredible, and there's no reason to believe that it won't be any different now, right? So we're very excited about that, and that's what I would say, that if anyone's wanted to jump in, this is the time.
Well, I think a lot of people are excited about those possibilities. Rana, I appreciate you joining me, sharing a bit more about Blue Lagoon Resources. The link to find their website is in the description field below. And Rana, we'll look forward to following your success and seeing how it goes. I think it's an exciting time we have coming ahead of us.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Thanks for having me.